Everyone's obsessed with getting the lowest rates, but here's the truth. Locking in a low rate might not be your biggest win. In fact, chasing it could actually cost you more in the long run. Yep, I said it, and let me show you why and what you can do to actually control it. Mortgage rates feel high right now, but it's not just some evil plan to make your life harder. What's really happening is inflation. When prices rise across the board, groceries, gas, housing, you name it, the Fed steps in to try to cool things down. They raise their own interest rates, hoping people borrow and spend a little bit less. That ripples out to mortgage rates. And voila, buying a home gets more expensive. Think of it like turning down the heat. When the stew is about to boil over, you don't want bubbling all over the stove. Same with the economy. When the Fed raises rates, they're not directly setting mortgage rates. That's a common mix-up. What they are raising is the federal funds rate, which is the rate banks charge each other to borrow overnight. Mortgage rates, they take their cues from a whole bunch of things, like the bond market, investor confidence, inflation data, global uncertainty, and yes, what the Fed says can move the needle too. Kind of like how just hearing someone say we might get snow sends everyone out rushing to buy bread and milk. So when rates go up and things get expensive, it's tempting to point the finger. It's the Fed, it's Washington, it's my ex. But the truth is, it's a mix of things. Inflation is not cooling fast enough. Right now, mortgage rates are hovering around the mid sixes to the low sevens. Better than they were a few months ago, but still way above what people got used to during the pandemic. Inflation is still sticking around, and until it cools down more consistently, the Fed isn't likely to loosen things up too fast. Global supply chain hiccups, trade tensions, and tariff threats make investors nervous, and nervous investors want higher returns. That pushes up the bond yields, and when bond yields go up, so do mortgage rates. And on top of that, the US government is spending a lot, which means more debt, more borrowing, and more pressure on interest rates. It's like everyone's ordering off the menu at the same time and wondering why the kitchen's backed up. Basically, it's complicated, but it's not a conspiracy. It's a balancing act, and we're all walking that tightrope. The bad news is there is nothing you or I can do to change the rates. But the good news is there are things you can do to prepare for them and even position yourself to benefit long term. Now, I'll get to these very shortly. Remember those super low rates we all miss? They weren't exactly normal. They were a response to a crisis. After the 2008 crash, and again during the pandemic, the Fed dropped the rates to rock bottom levels to keep the economy alive. And it worked kind of too well. Here's what happened. People rushed to buy homes because borrowing was dirt cheap. Refinancing exploded. People locked in 2.5% to 3% rates and now are saying, why should I ever sell? Investors started gobbling up real estate, pushing prices even higher. Inventory got tight, fewer people selling, more people buying, and eventually inflation caught up with us. So while low rates felt amazing at that time, they also helped create the imbalance we're in now. Too many buyers and not enough homes, and a lot of folks locked into the golden handcuff mortgages, and they're not eager to trade in. So now what? 3 things need to happen before rates come down. Inflation has to chill and stay low for a while. The job market needs to slow just a little. Not tank, just ease up. We don't want people losing their jobs for the sake of lower interest rates. Global stuff like tariffs and debt need to feel more stable. Only then will the Fed feel confident enough to ease rates more. Many experts think we might see small rate drops late this year in 2026, but those crazy low 3% rates probably gone for good. And to put this all in perspective, because a lot of people are comparing today's rates to those sweet pandemic lows, that's the gold standard. Spoiler alert, those weren't normal. If you look at the past 50 years, mortgage rates under 5% were the exception, not the rule. In the 1980s, rates hit double digits. We're talking peaking near 18%. In the 90s, they floated between 7 and 9%. Through the early 2000s, we were mostly in the 6 to 7% range, pretty close to where we are at right now. The pandemic rates, that was an emergency lever pulled during the global crisis. Helpful in that moment, arguably, yes. Repeatable? Not likely. So if you're looking at today's rates and thinking these rates are brutal, I get it. But from historical lens, we're actually sitting in what many economists would call a healthy long-term normal. For rates, that is, not the housing market. The housing market is definitely not normal, or even what I would consider healthy. Do we even want rates to come down? You'd think the answer is obviously yes, but you might be surprised to hear that it could make things worse, at least in the short term. This will somewhat be based on where you actually live because real estate will always be local. And let me explain. Think of the housing market like a restaurant. When mortgage rates go down, it's like advertising a huge discount, resulting in a dinner rush. Tons of people show up hungry all at once while expecting a great deal. Now, places like Texas and Florida and other parts of the South and Southwest, it's like the kitchen is ready. The food is prepped, staff is on deck, they've got homes, inventory to serve. There are enough homes to absorb the increased demands. That occurs because of the lower interest rates. So even when it gets busy, they can handle it. But in places like Illinois or the northeast part of the US, it's like that same dinner rush, except it hits at 10 a.m. when no one's prepped. Half the team called off and the stove's not even hot. That's what high inventory feels like. So when rates drop and buyers flood in, there are enough homes to go around. Prices shoot up, bidding wars starts, and the whole thing feels chaotic. I'm sure you heard these stories back in 2021 and 2022. Lower rates sound nice, but in a market with no homes prepped, it's a mess. In areas where there's more inventory, they can handle the crowd. In tight markets like ours, it adds pressure. And if you're buying a home, what good is it to purchase a home at a lower rates for prices that just shot up 5 to 10% overnight? Seems like there's no way to win, but maybe there is. If you're thinking about waiting for rates to drop, that's a legit option. But you've got to think through that carefully. Sure, lower interest rates can sound like a dream, but here's the twist. If rates fall and home prices spike, that means the savings you gain on interest might get wiped out by paying more for the house itself. Playing the waiting game is kind of like waiting for airline tickets to go on sale. But while you're holding out for cheaper airfare, the destination hotel prices triple. Sure, you saved a few bucks on the flight, but now the total cost of the trip is way more than if you just booked everything earlier. That's the trap. Interest rates can be refinanced later, like changing your flight after you book. But the price you pay for the house, that's locked in. And if the price goes up while you're waiting, you've lost the real savings before you even get in the door. Another point is if buyer demand shoots up and there's not enough inventory, especially in tight markets like parts of Illinois, you might find yourself stuck with fewer options and making compromises you didn't plan for, like waiving home inspections. And yes, people did this just a few years ago, if you could believe it. Over 70% of sellers are also buyers. So yes, lower rates could encourage more homes to hit the market. But it's unclear if it'll be enough to meet the wave of new demand. And there's a real issue I've seen play out, even when sellers want to move. If they can't find a home to buy, they sometimes will pull out of the deals altogether. As a buyer, your negotiation power is strongest right now before the floodgates open. Once everybody's jumping in at the same time, say goodbye to price cuts and hello to bidding wars. Rates can be refinanced later, but you can't go back in time to negotiate when the market was calmer and prices were lower. But, and this is a big one, make sure the payment you're looking for today works for your current budget. Don't stretch yourself out if you're depending on this and think I'll just refinance later. Refinancing is a great tool, but it's not a guarantee. If home values dip, if your financial situation changes, or if rates don't come down as much as you expected, refinancing might not even be on the table. You need to be okay with the monthly payment as is because you could be carrying it for a lot longer than you planned. Now, while you don't hear a lot of predictions on rates going up, it has happened in the past. Could happen again. Just fit that into one of the possible outcomes when budgeting. I don't want you to get stuck in a bad situation. So what can you actually do? You can start with a rate buy down. Ask the seller to cover part of your interest rates, either temporarily or permanently. Now, when we say a buy down, we're talking about paying money up front, either you or the seller, to reduce the interest rate. There are two main flavors: a temporary buy down. Think of this like a 3-day weekend sale. You get lower interest rates for the first year or two, usually via a 2-1 or a 3-2-1 structure, and then the rate gradually steps up to the full rates. The benefit to you: low payments in the beginning, which is great if you expect your income to grow or if you plan to refinance soon. The downside: it's short term. The full rate is still lurking down the road. It's like getting the first few months of your gym membership free. Nice up front, but the full price kicks in later. Now, whatever the final rate you get in the end, just be sure you can sustain that long term. And the second is you can do a permanent buy down. This one's like paying extra to lock in a forever discount. You or the seller pay points up front to permanently reduce your rate. The benefit: your monthly payments stay lower forever, or at least until you sell or refinance. The downside: it costs more up front, and it only pays off if you stay in the home long enough. It's like buying a big old Costco pack. More expensive up front, but better deal over time if you stick with it. Next, don't wait for a mythical perfect rate. Buy now and refinance later if the numbers make sense down the road. The real game is building equity. While others sit on the sidelines, building equity is like planting a tree. The best time was yesterday, the second best time is today. While others are still shopping for that perfect seed, you're already watering yours, letting it grow, and eventually enjoying the shade. Also, focus on the payment, not just the rate. If the monthly payment fits your budget, you're golden. You can also explore down payment assistance programs in your area. For example, here in Illinois, programs like IDA or Cook County grants can offer $6,000 to $25,000 towards your home. Another pro move: look for homes that have been sitting on the market for 30 plus days. These sellers are usually more flexible. And then maybe even look into something that needs a little bit more sweat equity or work, where you can build your own equity with moderate upgrades and renovations over time. These homes tend to stay on the market longer, and there's typically more room for negotiating. And don't sleep on new construction. Builders are hustling to close deals and often throw in big incentives like rate buy downs or free upgrades. There are other creative options you can look into. Discuss with your realtor and lender. Stuff like assumable mortgages, co-buying, or co-investing. Bottom line: you're not powerless. Yes, rates are higher, but so is your leverage. If you wait for rates to drop, so will everyone else, and you'll lose your edge. For tighter markets like ours here in Illinois, I would like to see rates come down, but at a healthy pace. We don't want the pendulum swinging too far to any one side. I've sold real estate in both of those extremes. It's not a great feeling. Everyone's situation is different. Start the conversation early with your realtor and lender, and if you find a good one, they will work at your pace and provide guidance and help you decide if right now makes sense based on your individual circumstance. Now, if you are in my area, the south or southwest suburbs of Chicago, and need help, contact me directly. Even if you're not in my location, I work with agents across the country, and I can put you in touch with someone who will be a great fit. All my contact information is in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, please let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. I would love to hear comments on what's your biggest concern about buying or selling this year. Higher rates, lack of homes for sale, overall affordability, or what you're experiencing in your local market. If there are other challenges, please share. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.